Were you excited for the upcoming Black Widow film? Were you upset that we hadn't got a Black Widow film sooner than now? Well, I think I know where in the MCU's timeline a Natasha Romanoff solo film should have come, and it may just surprise you. Or it won't. After 23 films spanning a decade, the MCU's leading lady was finally due to actually lead a film. Let's throw that into some context. 23 films. Black Widow has featured in 8 of them, more than any other female superhero within the MCU, and she leads 0. It's something that fans of Agent Romanoff have been asking for a very long time, and I remember that hit the iceberg when the Captain Marvel film was announced, and people wondering why we were getting a Captain Marvel film before we even got a Black Widow film. I was questioning as to why it has to be one or the other, and why we can't just have both, because damn did we need both. And look, there are probably plenty of spots within the MCU as to where a Black Widow film could have fit. The film we are due to get is set between Civil War and Infinity War, and of course plays as a prequel to... well, I'm trying not to remember it. But I think I found the perfect spot within the MCU timeline as to where a Black Widow film should have featured, so much so that I believe it doesn't really upset the arc of the Infinity Saga. So the film should have originally arrived in Phase 1. That's probably not a surprise really, is it? And it should have arrived instead of Iron Man 2. Here are some reasons why. Reason number 1, Black Widow was introduced into this film anyway. But the issue was how she was introduced in this film. She was introduced as this younger, sexier alternative to Pepper Potts. Something to come in between the relationship of Tony and Pepper. Instead, a Black Widow origin film could have introduced her as the covert ex-KGB S.H.I.E.L.D. agent that she is. She has this incredibly painful history that we have never really truly been able to learn, and yes, it does feature in both the Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, but think as to how much more impactful it would have been if she had had her own origin story. And then moving beyond that, we get to see the arc of this woman who has had everything torn away from her, and she rises above it, and by the time of Infinity War and Endgame, she is willing to risk it all and die for the newfound family. That is 10 times more powerful than just being oogled at by Tony and Happy for 2 hours straight. Am I right? Reason number 2, Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3 aren't the strongest of MCU films, and so I believe you could consolidate them both into one film that is set after the Avengers. If we take the storylines from Iron Man 3 of Tony dealing with his PTSD after the Battle of New York, and we take the storylines in Iron Man 2 of Howard Stark's past catching up with Tony, a la Whiplash, and Tony discovering that his father's greatest legacy was Tony all along, then we get more character growth for Tony, and a film that is grounded more, keeps the tension of the first Iron Man film, and gets away with all these silly gimmicks that were loaded so heavily into Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3. It just would have been a hell of a lot more coherent. Reason number 3, it would have opened the doors for a more diverse pool of heroes within the MCU from the very beginning. Phase 4 is set to have more diversity within the MCU, and just taking a look around YouTube in research for this video, I think people are really misinterpreting as to what this means. And a Black Widow film would have helped to dampen those misinterpretations. Look, in the 23 films we've had so far, 1.5 have been led by female superheroes, 1 has been led by a black superhero, and we have 0 leads so far for Asian, Hispanic, and LGBTQ+ superheroes. Yeah, sure, there are characters in all these above demographics littered throughout the MCU, but there is such a difference between Sam Wilson being a supporting character in someone else's film and Sam Wilson being the leading character in his own film. And it's not just a case about people feeling represented in these films. It's more about normalizing different faces in pop culture. Stories about people different to ourselves are how we learn about them, and we're only going to learn about them if they are the center of attention in their own story. Yes, I probably can feel represented in a character like Captain America, but I also don't want the Black Panther film to be this one-off amazing phenomenon when really it could be the norm. And Black Widow has always been a side character in all 8 films that she's in. In fact, one of them is just the post-credit scene in Captain Marvel, but it counts. Why not have a story solely about her? And yes, we are finally getting that, and it is great. But all I can think now is, where's the jeopardy in this film? We know where the story arc of Black Widow ends, so when she finds herself in any tight spots, any sticky situations, we know she's going to get out fine and dandy because she's got to survive to a future film. And will it even be possible to feel invested in this film that is now just a potential lip service rather than a rounded out story that Natasha deserved? Look, here is the thing. A Black Widow origin film early on in the MCU could have set the precedent for a more diverse pool of superhero leads within the MCU, weaving it into the core structure of the MCU rather than now having to play catch up. And also, let's just think about female superhero films in the mid to late noughties. I'm thinking Elektra and Catwoman that were relatively unsuccessful films. The MCU could have really taken the chance to step in and be a game changer. Now, of course, that could just be wishful thinking, but knowing the quality that Marvel and Kevin Feige strive to achieve, it really could have been amazing. Both a deeply emotive film and a game changer for both the MCU and the female superhero subgenre. That being said, the MCU has hardly suffered when it comes to success. Look, all that being said, we are finally getting a Black Widow film, and I can't wait to see what is in store for us, and if you're feeling the same, let me know in the comment section down below. Hakuna MaChatter.